Hey everyone, it's Jack from WhatCulture.com. Let's immediately address the elephant in the room. JBL fell over on SmackDown, and Ross, I haven't seen him today yet, but he's going to come into this studio just after I've finished, and he's going to probably say some mean things about John Bradshaw Layfield. And I'm beginning the official start. Phil, if you could pop just a timer in the corner. This is the official Ross Tweddle countdown to Access at WrestleMania in Orlando, where I believe, this is my official prediction, Ross is going to be in the queue for something, and just out of nowhere, JBL is just going to take his head off with a clothesline. And I'm not looking forward to it. You know, Ross is just doing his job, but then again, so is JBL. You know? Let's look at some ups and downs. Shane McMahon came out to start the show. Shane McMahon came to start the show, and he had a big announcement. It is that there will be an Elimination Chamber match in February where whoever wins out of AJ Styles and John Cena at the Royal Rumble will be forced to defend their championship in the fearsome structure. I think this is exciting. A lot of people on Twitter seem to think that this pretty much guarantees a Raw Royal Rumble winner, and I agree slightly, but I don't think it's anything certain by any stretch of the imagination, and it keeps things that little bit more unpredictable with regards to the WrestleMania card itself. So I'm definitely giving this announcement the first big old up of the video. It's an up. This, of course, brought out AJ Styles, who was furious at having to defend his belt, assuming that he's going to win the Royal Rumble. And of course AJ assumed that he's going to win at the Royal Rumble. He is, after all, AJ Styles, the best in the world. And then The Miz came out, and they got into it a little bit, and Cena came out. And it was a really good promo segment. It was quite funny, where Miz and AJ, there was a lot of tension, and then Cena would pop up behind them. In a rare instance of Cena's jokes actually working quite well, he'd be like, "You gonna let him talk to you like that?" And then they'd go back and forwards, and it was two heels being played off against each other. It was quite funny. Miz mocked AJ's counteract, saying moves are easy. And then Styles said that the last time they were in Memphis, he knocked Miz's teeth out and beat him up so badly, he's surprised he now doesn't perform with a limp. And then he said to Maurice, actually, does he perform with a limp? He means trying to have sexual intercourse with a flaccid penis. I'm not going to beat about the bush. Anyway, this segment was really good, and it gets an up as well, 2-0. Now we had a first match of the show, The Miz versus AJ Styles, with Cena on guest commentary, and it was a really good match until Cena was a dick. You know, AJ threw Miz into Cena, and Cena saw Miz coming, saw what happened, recognised that it was AJ's fault, but he still threw Miz into the barricade. Clearly the wounds of WrestleMania 27 haven't healed quite yet for Big Match John, but fortunately it was one of those matches where a non-finish actually worked better than a proper finish would have. It was a really rare instance of that, and then Cena hit the pair with an attitude adjustment each, and it was again a rare instance of Cena standing tall, having, you know, overcame the odds, beating up two men at once. It felt refreshing. It's been a while since we've seen Cena in a dominant position, and I do quite enjoy it. So all good so far. 3-0 to the ups. Now we get to a feud that I feel really bad criticising. I seem to criticise it every week because it does feel like they're genuinely trying to make it fresh and exciting, but it just hasn't worked for me so far. I'm talking about Nikki Bella and Natalya. This time Nikki came to the ring, called out Natalya, and then she appeared way up in the bleachers. No, this isn't high school football practice. I meant in the arena, in the stands. She appeared up there and said, "Here I am, Nikki. I'm really annoyed about merch for some reason." And then she ran backstage where the merch stand was and started going, "Where's the Nikki Bella merch?" And then she pulled some Nikki Bella merch down and went, "Oh, it's next to the John Cena merch. How convenient, because you're banging each other." And it's very sexual ups and downs. Then Nikki, you know, not ambushed her, she followed her and went, "What are you doing? All my t-shirts are on the floor." And then she went, "All my t-shirts are on the floor," and then she jumped on Natalya and beat her up. I'm going to do Nikki Bella's voice as a Yorkshireman forever from now on. Nikki then got dragged away by security. It's the first brawl I think I've seen in the merch area, which felt fresh, but ultimately I just don't think this makes too much sense, and I really don't like how Natalya is disowning Bret Hart. It's similar to Charlotte kind of disowning Ric Flair over on Raw, and it's happened too close to each other for me to really buy into the disowning of a legendary relative. So I'm afraid it gets our first down of the night. Now we got our second match, Randy Orton versus Dean Ambrose. current Intercontinental Champion Dean Ambrose, I should say. But the real story here was the post-match shenanigans. Dean won with a roll-up after Luke Harper and Bray Wyatt kind of accidentally distracted Randy, and then Randy and Luke Harper kind of got into it after the match and had a little bit of a scuffle. And Bray was like breaking up, and he was like, "Whoa, lads, calm down. We're all Wyatts together. Let's all be friends." And then Randy was like, "Nah, mate, no." And Luke was furious. And then Bray Wyatt punched Luke Harper in the face. And the look of betrayal on Harper's face, I wouldn't be surprised if a face turn is incoming for Luke Harper. He looked so hurt. And Bray just looked so stressed as well, trying to manage his two kind of sidekicks. But it was a good match. Everything made sense and built tension within the Wyatt family after the match as well, so this one gets an up. Now we get to maybe the most memorable segment of the whole show, and a peculiar one, and one that I've really struggled with when deciding whether to give it an up or a down. Ultimately, I'm going to give it a down, but there was still a bit to enjoy here as well. It was the King's Court segment with Jerry the King Lawler dressed as if it was 1993. He looked really old school. It was quite cool. And then Ziggler came out and he interviewed him and basically tore into him and said, "Look, you've changed your attitude so many times." He's saying basically he's turned heel and face so many times, and it's never really got him anywhere. He's still going to be a loser. And he said that, look, you should just concentrate and not go down this dark path because it doesn't help. And to me, that didn't really make sense, because Lawler, for the majority of his WWF run in the 90s, was a massive heel and then a heel commentator. It's only in recent years when he's been looked back on as more of a sympathetic babyface character. It didn't really make too much sense for me. Lawler came across as a bit of a hypocrite, and then things got very kind of uncomfortable and a little bit controversial. They brought up the heart attack, which was clearly designed to give Ziggler a lot of heat, especially in Lawler's hometown of Memphis, Tennessee. But then Ziggler kind of all went a little bit too far. Ziggler claimed responsibility for the heart attack due to a series of elbow drops he'd given Lawler earlier that same night. And then he was about to storm away and call an end to the whole King's Court segment, and then he turned back around like Shawn Michaels does and super kicked Lawler, but not in the face, in the heart, which again felt a bit blatant about ramming the point home. It's like, oh, he might have a heart attack. It was, I've got to give it a down. And then JBL ran in to make the save and fell on his arse. Well, fell on his front. Ross is going to get destroyed. If we could just bring up that he's going to get killed. Access, it's going to happen, I swear. Now we move on to a segment that I really do feel bad about giving it down, but I am going to give it a down. It's the main event steel cage match for the women's title between Alexa Bliss and Becky Lynch. And it's kind of hard to criticize women's wrestling in sort of 2016, 2017, because it's improved immeasurably since even just a few years ago. But this match, and I suppose to treat women's wrestling equally, you've got to look at it on the same sort of playing field as the men's wrestling. It just wasn't as good a match as it had been billed. It was probably the weakest match on the show, but we'll get onto that because there was only 3 matches on the whole show anyway. But yeah, it felt a little bit laboured at points, and it was nowhere near as intense as, you know, the Charlotte Sasha Banks Hell in a Cell, which I did enjoy. But there was a positive with regards to the ending, which I'll get onto a bit later. On the whole, it was an okay match, but not really one I thought befitting of the stipulation or the main event slot. Now we move on to a sort of general point about the whole show. As I said, there wasn't a lot of wrestling on it. There was only 3 matches. It was very promo heavy. And I feel like even though the matches were largely good, well, I enjoyed 2 out of 3 of them, yeah, every one of them had a bit of a screwy finish. And there was just a lot of promos. It felt like an episode of Raw, really, this SmackDown. It felt like an episode of Raw. And I do feel harsh, but I'm going to slip an extra down in there. But fear not, because there's 1 point left and it's going to get an up. And that is, of course, the return of Mickie James to the main roster. Mickie James, one of the greatest women's WWE superstars of all time, I'd say. She's one of the best women's wrestlers in WWE history. I think that's pretty fair. She's great in the ring and one of the most charismatic women ever in wrestling. And she was back. She was La Luchadora, the mysterious masked woman who was interfering in Becky Lynch's matches. Becky tore the mask off. It was Mickie James. She helped Alexa win the match. It wasn't a good match, as I say, but the very fact that Mickie James has returned has immediately breathed new life into the women's division, and it makes Alexa Bliss look even stronger with such a sort of cunning, capable woman on her side. So that definitely gets an up and just nudges the ups in the lead. So that's all for this week on SmackDown Ups and Downs. A middling SmackDown, I'd suggest, on a week when Raw was kind of middling as well. So there's no clear winner this week, I'd say, even though SmackDown's been trouncing Raw for the most part. Anyway, I've been Jack from WhatCulture.com. Thank you for watching. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_the_Jobber. You can follow Phil at ChambersPhilip, and we'll both see you soon.
We're never going to stop doing magazines called wrestling. It's time for issue 4, the first magazine of 2017. And to celebrate, we're looking back on the wrestling year that was, including end-of-year awards for best and worst matches of 2016, best and worst wrestlers of 2016, best and worst feuds, and many more. Also, a gigantic career retrospective on AJ Styles, Dixie Carter's crimes against wrestling, and how WWE should have booked the road to WrestleMania 2016, written by this sexual Catherine Wheel. As ever, the magazine is available now to order at shop.whatculture.com. For the love of God, buy it.